We all know that the Book of Boba Fett has been compared to The Mandalorian even before it came out. The spin-off series has so many similarities and differences to Mando, and we're here to give you some of them.
Grief Karga said you were coming.
But firstly, did you know that The Mandalorian Season 3 debut had disappointing viewer numbers? Okay, so The Mandalorian has been getting a lot of attention since its return to Disney+, but new figures suggest that viewership for the series has drastically dipped from the premiere of Season 2. Now when we take a look back at last year, we see that the season finale for the Book of Boba Fett had a fair amount of viewers. 1.5 million households watched at least 5 minutes of the finale of the Book of Boba Fett between Wednesday and Sunday, and it's clear that the moment of excitement for the Book of Boba Fett carried all the way to the finale. But what happened to The Mandalorian? And why is Season 3 off to such a weak start? Especially if we compare it to Season 2's record-breaking performance.
Just want to make sure he's safe. If you put one mark on him, there's no place you will be able to hide from me. That's where we're gonna try and find you a Jedi. Are you a Jedi?
I am.
The Mandalorian has become a banker for Lucasfilm. It delivered something that many of the franchise's latest movies could not. The debut episode scored 50% higher than the most recent Star Wars series, Andor. Although its reviews have highly been outpaced by that show, The Mandalorian Season 3 debut had just under 1.5 million viewers in the US. When we compare it to Season 2's premiere with 2.8 million viewers, or Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi with 2.14 million.
What treasure do we have in reserve?
I have plenty of credits. What I'm short on is muscle.
Credits can buy muscle.
Don't you agree?
They said 50 years old. I think it's a child.
This seems extremely low, and you know what makes this even more disappointing? The trailer for Mando's Season 3 is the most viewed trailer for any Star Wars Disney Plus series. So you're probably wondering, what caused this? Well, there are always complaints about franchise fatigue, especially with Disney Plus. Take the MCU for example. Most frequently, the MCU is under fire because they release too many TV shows and movies in a short span of time. And we also see this applied to Star Wars sometimes. When The Mandalorian made its debut, it was fresh and new. Not like KFC lettuce. It was the only Star Wars TV series out there. Since then, we've seen more and more series released by Lucasfilm, with a number of live-action and animated shows. The Book of Boba Fett, Andor, Obi-Wan, and a promise of more to come in the form of Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. However, there is another reason why the series' Season 3 debut had so little viewership: the choice of the release date. Both of the series' previous seasons arrived close to the end of the year and made their debuts on a Friday and not a Wednesday. This means more people were able to watch the debut over the weekend.
We agreed, in exchange for the return of my armor, we will ensure the safety of the child.
He said you were the best in the parsec.
What's your highest bounty?
But one of the biggest factors when it comes to why the previous seasons had more viewers is, when the first season came out, it was October 2020, the height of COVID. So a lot of people were at home and looking for something to watch. Now that we're all back to work and carrying on with our day-to-day lives, we don't have as much time to sit around and watch TV. So don't worry, The Mandalorian might have a lower number of views, but it is still as popular as ever. Just like the Book of Boba Fett, both shows still have a high number of viewers, and we can't wait to see more of them. But now, let's talk about a few differences between the two shows. So it's clear to see that both shows have been quite successful, and it's quite clear that the two shows are widely different, but they're still kind of the same. So here's one of the first differences between the two shows. The Book of Boba Fett is like The Godfather Part 2. Well, not as good in my opinion, but it does follow a parallel story timeline. Simultaneously, it acts as a prequel and sequel, Each episode of the Book of Boba Fett flashes between the aftermath of Boba surviving his encounter with the Sarlacc pit and his post-Mandalorian takeover of Mos Espa's criminal underbelly. One of the biggest criticisms that we saw from reviews is that one of these storylines is moving faster than the other. The prequel storyline is exploring an explanation of a missing piece of the canon that we've been waiting for, while the present-day storyline feels like a generic gangster saga. The next difference is how they play out the power struggle. Now, both of the shows explore the criminal underworlds of the Star Wars universe. However, they explore different corners of the crime world. In The Mandalorian, bounty hunters collect cash rewards for the capture, or well, sometimes the assassination of high-profile targets. In the Book of Boba Fett, we see gangsters squabbling over territory that is left uncontrolled after Jabba the Hutt's death. This difference is probably one of the biggest ones, the true anti-hero. And no, not the Taylor Swift song. Both The Mandalorian and Boba Fett are introduced as anti-heroes in their shows, but Mando transitions into a straightforward hero when he betrays the bounty hunter's code to free Grogu, not Baby Yoda, from the client. Mando is characterized as an anti-hero, but his quest to protect a child from malicious forces is hardly amoral. Boba is, on the other side of the coin, is trying to seize control of a crime syndicate to increase his own power and wealth. His goals are much more morally gray. Unlike Mando, Boba Fett is a true anti-hero of Star Wars. Another difference between the two shows is who leads the shows. In The Mandalorian, there is only one lead actor, Pedro Pascal. Yes, we see a lot of recurring actors and actresses. Carl Weathers, Gina Carcano, Giancarlo Esposito, and a few guest performers like Bill Burr and Amy Sedaris have all been in and out of the show, but the only major characters who appear in every episode are Pedro Pascal as Mando and an incarnate puppet. Yes, sorry to burst your bubble, Grogu isn't really alive. The Book of Boba Fett, though, has two lead actors. Temuera Morrison's Boba is backed up by the iconic Ming-Na Wen and her equally badass character, Fennec Shand. As seen in The Mandalorian, Fennec owes Boba her life and now acts as his loyal sidekick. The two shows have a lot of differences, but they're also quite alike. For example, both of them are space westerns. The Book of Boba Fett has taken a lot of cues from gangster movies, yes, but it's just as much of a space western as The Mandalorian. On top of their portrayal of gunfighters on a lawless frontier, both of these two characters' adventures are full of references to old western classics. The Mandalorian had a shootout that was inspired by the Wild Bunch, and the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett had Boba dragged through the desert, much like Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We love seeing references like these in shows, and this is maybe why the two shows are so amazing. They differ quite a lot, but also have a few similarities. But what do you think? Is the Book of Boba Fett better than The Mandalorian? And why are you wrong for saying that one show is better than the other? Also, will the viewership of both shows skyrocket as time goes on? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments, and we'll see you next time in another video.